Pen and a Quill Studio presents the vampire love story that started it all.
Delphi, Greece, in the late 12th century. Swans start disappearing from a lake on the outskirts of the city. Alessandro was walking on the shores of a rather beautiful lake when he heard a rather deep voice behind him. He turned around, and there was nobody to be seen.
From now on, do not let the sun touch that precious skin of yours. It will burn, and you will burn.
Alessandro kept on walking for a minute, laughing to himself, when a female voice broke his chain of thought.
You thought my brother spoke in jest? Well, he did not. You will live forever, young man, but you will burn if you ever touch silver. It will be agony of the kind you cannot even conceive of.
Alessandro was, if nothing else, a curious kind of person. The next morning was bright and cloudless, so he went to the same spot, by the lake. The sunlight was calling out to him, so he stepped out of the shade and took a few steps towards it. Before he knew it, he was letting out a scream. He staggered back to the shade and looked down to find a jagged red line on his forearm. He spent the next 2 days resting in his tavern room. On the third day, he woke up as if from a trance. Walked to the lake once more, his eyes peeled for one thing only. This was his darkest secret yet. In the twilight, it was a rather gruesome sight. There were swans all around the lake, but they were not swimming. They were not even breathing. Flecks of crimson dotted their white fur. Alessandro took out a large golden cup from his satchel and started to pour the blood into it. After the cup had been filled to the brim, he took a large swig from it, and as the blood hit his throat, he gave a guttural scream. By now, the moonlight reflected off his pearly white fangs. Celine had just finished her work for the day. Her eyes were buried in a book, so she didn't notice the dark-haired man until it was too late. The next thing she knew, blood was dripping from her upper lip. The man was extremely apologetic.
I am so sorry. Let me take care of that for you.
No, it is okay, really. That will teach me to look up from my book every once in a while. You are a healer?
His smile was tight-lipped and his response was cryptic. I have some experience with blood, yes.
They walked to his apartment, which was only a couple of miles away. The man wrapped up some gauze and rubbing alcohol and pressed it to Celine's upper lip. Within a second, the blood was gone.
How did you do that?
He simply laughed in reply.
You know, I realized I don't even know your name.
Oh, it's Alessandro.
They were together for the next year and fell deeply in love, although it did strike Celine as odd that he would always insist they meet after her work. It was almost as if he not only hated the sun, he was also afraid of it. Sometimes, when they were just sitting together, Alessandro would look at her and get this overwhelming urge to sink his teeth into her neck. This, for him, was how he could show he loved her. But a part of him was also aware that it was dangerous and that he could lose the woman he had come to regard as the love of his life. One evening, when they were taking a stroll through the city, they came across a lake where swans were floating in the water. A voice spoke in Alessandro's head, and his instincts overcame his logic. He gave Celine a thin smile.
What is this place? Her voice shook ever so slightly.
He didn't answer. Taking out his gun, he started shooting into the water. Celine wanted to run, but it seemed her legs were suddenly made of lead.
What are you doing? She whispered.
Alessandro walked calmly up to the water and retrieved a couple of lifeless swans. He took out a large golden cup from his satchel and started to pour the blood into it. After the cup had been filled to the brim, he took a large swig from it, and as the blood hit his throat, he gave a guttural scream. Then he turned towards Celine and spoke, whose eyes were transfixed with horror and fear. I am always on the lookout for my own kind. It's not easy because most of us like to stay in the shadows, quite literally. But all I have met is failure all these decades and centuries. I don't know why I thought you would be one, but evidently you are not. But you could be. Would you like to be?
Would I like to be what? She asked, her voice radiating a chilling fear.
A vampire. His voice was a whisper, but also mocking at the same time. How could she have loved this man so much, yet not known him at all? As he sunk his teeth into her neck, she started to relax. As the first drop of blood started dripping, she fell into a deep, trance-like sleep. When Celine woke up the next day, in her bedroom, the sunlight hit her face directly. She screamed. Then she knew. Alessandro and Celine still live somewhere in Florence, in a flat where the blinds are always drawn. All the vampires living in their secret societies can trace their lineage to both of them. The swans still disappear from the lake.
This is an original story by Pen and a Quill Studio. If you liked the story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like this.